Hey, what up, everybody? Welcome back to the recap, where we're going to be discussing the latest MCU show, of course, Loki, and I'm talking about episode 2 titled The Variant. I'm bringing you another one solo. It's your boy, Kenny. Go ahead and follow me over there, the social medias, man. Instagram, Twitter, at Epsilon, EPSILON underscore audio. You can check me out over there. I'm producing all the episodes here at Fandom Frequency, and I also got my own production slash rap and stuff going on. So check me out over there. But with no further ado, commercial break over. Let's get right into the episode. And we're going to start off with my general thoughts on the episode, and then we'll kind of get into breaking down all the big details, Easter eggs, the big moment, the speculation of where things can go next. But with no further ado, let's get right into it. So, my overall thoughts on the episode are it was awesome. I really love this episode, man. I actually enjoyed this just a little bit more than the previous episode titled Glorious Purpose, of course. And I like that this one had a very nice blend of action, sci fi, world building, and just dialogue driven scenes between Loki and Mobius, just going over different things and excuse me, and going over their different worldviews and their perspectives on how they both see the TVA and how Loki just doesn't really buy into it, even though Mobius does wholeheartedly and blindly, and to a certain point, which we'll get into more later. But yeah, man, this episode was a lot of fun, man. And like I said before in the previous breakdown, you really feel that Rick and Morty vibe in this show. I'm not a huge Rick and Morty fan like some people are, and I haven't seen every single episode, but I've seen at least I think I've seen all of season 1, part of season 2, so I am a couple seasons behind, but from what I saw and from what I've seen, I really dug it, and you can definitely see the influence of Michael Waldron writing and working on this show. So I really dig it and enjoy it overall. Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson together, the chemistry is off the charts. And I just love seeing these guys go back and forth and just do all this witty banter and everything like that. And just the comedy is so on point. All the humor hits, at least for me. And I love all the intriguing, philosophical things that they bring up in the discussions they have, and just different things. It is kind of actually some challenging stuff when you really want to dig deep and look at really what they're talking about. But at the same time, if you want to just enjoy it on a surface level, the show's a lot of fun, and I'm a sucker for time travel stories. So if you got a time travel story, I'm pretty much gonna check it out. So yeah, man. Overall, Loki episode 2, The Variant, is super dope, man. I give it a 9 point. I'll just give it a 9.0 out of 10. Really awesome episode. Damn near great, mind blowing, but we're not quite there yet. But I have a feeling with Lady Loki bombing the entire damn timeline and maybe even causing the multiverse of madness, who knows? With all that shit going down and having to get wrapped up in the next few episodes, it's gonna get crazy, y'all. So we're really just getting started, but hell yeah, man. Let's get right into all the breakdown and let's get into the discussion of the different big moments in the episode. And with this episode, The Variant, we pick up where we left off last time, or not where or actually we pick up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, 1985, at some Renaissance fair, and we got a couple Minutemen from the TVA coming through, led by Agent C-20, the black lady with the braids there. And she comes in with her crew, and they actually end up following the Variant's energy into this little tent. And the tent has like a little it's a small world type of show they put on in there for the Renaissance fair, and it starts going off and distracts them for a moment until our Lady Loki variant pops up, hooded up from the shadows, kicks the shit out of them, and then takes control of Agent C-20 by transferring her essence into Agent C20, and then she ends up knocking her out and taking her with her, and taking the timeline reset device, of course, because that plays into bombing the timeline later. And then we jump back over to Loki, our boy Mr. Lauthenson, chilling at the desk with his new TVA getup, reading a jet ski magazine he found on Mobius's desk. And guess who else is there with him? It's our girl Miss Minutes, voiced by the amazing Tara Strong, giving our boy Loki a little quiz about the multiverse madness, and if the timeline or if a Nexus event causes an entirely different timeline, what's going to happen? The entire universe as we know it is going to implode and destroy itself, a la Doc Brown's Explainer and Back to the Future 2 type vibes right there. And Loki's getting annoyed with Miss Minutes anyway, asking her, like, are you even real? And she's like, well, sort of, but not really. And he's like, man, get the hell out of here asking me all these questions. He starts swatting her away with the newspaper like she's a fly or something, and I had a lot of fun with that. And then Mobius comes up and says, all right, playtime's over, man. Suit up. It's time to get into action. We gotta follow this other Loki. And they go over to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where our boy Loki is pretty much bullshitting them once he gets there and stalling for time and trying to give his other variant self a little bit of a head start till he can kind of figure out what's going on and try to play them to try to get an audience, as he calls it, with the timekeeper so he can talk to them and try to do what he ends up revealing later is his plan to overthrow the timekeepers and take over the TVA and the sacred timeline as we know it. But after that, Mobius realizes that Loki is pretty much bullshitting him, and he says, "All right, gal, let's go back to the base, and let's go do a little more research and figure this thing out because this variant is already gone, and we cannot find where they went." So after that, Mobius and Ravonna are having a conversation in her office while he's asking permission pretty much to keep taking Loki in the field and to pretty much track down this variant. And Ravonna Renslayer really doesn't understand his psyche and his reasoning behind wanting to trust Loki, which is understandable, honestly, because he's the god of mischief. He's literally stabbed people in the back 50 times. Like, come on, man. Who could trust Loki? So Mobius is like, you know what? I just have a feeling about this, and I just know if we use this Loki to get to the other Loki, we're not going to have any other edge better than this. So why not use him while we can and dump him and get rid of him later? Or if he tries to fuck up or fuck around, we'll just erase him from the timeline and I'll do it myself. But I need to take him in the field. I need his help. I need to get into the mind of Loki, and who's better to do that than Loki? And he makes a good point, and that does pay off. So after that, Ravonna Renslayer says, all right, man, go ahead and do your thing. But the one interesting piece of dialogue that is brought up during this scene is the fact that Mobius hasn't met the timekeepers, bruh. Like, what the fuck? How do you believe in this so much, just in this context, right? And not actually have met them or had a conversation with them or actually know who they are? Are they space lizards? He can't tell you. So that's the crazy thing about it, but it kind of goes into that religion analogy and metaphor that we're going to discuss later a little bit when Loki and Mobius start having their little tat on tat, their little conversation back and forth. And after that, Mobius tells Loki that he's only chasing the variant because he can get to the variant through Loki. He's not really there to help him, or is he there to help him? Either way, stop bullshitting, get to work, get these files, go to the library, and do some damn research and quit bullshitting. It's time to get to work. So Loki has to go over to the TVA library to go check out some files. And once he goes up to the little receptionist stand, he's saying, hey, excuse me, miss? Excuse me? And the lady's just ignoring the hell out of him like he's not even there, even though she clear as day can tell he's right there. And she won't respond to his ass until he rings the fucked up little bell she's got right there on the desk, which made me laugh because I just love that. It's such Roz from Monsters Inc. type vibes right here, man. And he ends up asking her for files on the timekeepers and the origins of them, the origins of the timeline, the end of time. And she's like, nope, classified, classified, classified. And he's like, what the hell, lady? What files can I check out? And she's like, oh, okay, let me go show you. And it's literally his files on himself. It's literally the Loki Lauthenson files. And he's going through the files, looking at the 616 Loki, we can say for just this for the sake of conversation here and for clarity for those out there. that may not keep up with all these crazy variant things. Our boy Loki, the 616 Loki that we watched through phases 1 through 3, he's looking through the files of his life and seeing where things went from there after the events he just experienced in 2012 with the Avengers, right? So he's seeing that Asgard got destroyed in Asgard got destroyed in Ragnarok, just like the prophecy said. And our boys got to kind of shed a tear for a minute because there's like no survivors written on this thing, even though we know there's like a very small pocket that does escape with them. He doesn't know this at the moment, right? So he really thinks that all the Asgardians have gotten wiped out. So he actually feels a little bit of emotion right there in that moment, but he also notices this file, like all the other ones, when it comes to the line that says variance energy 0%, they all say that there's no variance energy at any of these apocalyptic events that Loki was involved in or that the variant has traveled to. So he realizes that it's apocalyptic events is the loophole. That's where the variant is hiding. That's where the variant keeps going to an apocalyptic event because if she goes to an event where everything in the immediate area around them and everyone there is going to get destroyed and killed, there's no way for her to affect the timeline and cause a Nexus event because there's nothing around to interact with. And everything is bound to get blown up anyway. So you can go to any apocalyptic event you want to as long as it's right before that. You can do anything you want because it's all going to get erased naturally through the flow of the sacred timeline. Thus, the TVA will never know you were there, and Loki even says, if I was going to hide anywhere, that's where I'd hide. But Mobius is still a little sketched out and not sure if he can trust Loki, but he figures, you know what? Since you're the only one with a good theory for the moment, let's rock with it and we'll see what happens. So they end up looking through some files to figure out which apocalyptic event they can go to or they should go to try to figure out where they should go. So they figure, you know what, we're going to test this theory with a good old Pompeii, Italy in 96 AD. So Loki and them go right there, and Mobius is even messing around with him a little bit and telling him, hey, man, we can't affect the timeline. We don't want to cause any Nexus events and get redlined here. So can you make bird noises? Can you make bird calls? And he's like, bird noises? Loki's like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, dude, we don't want to cause any Nexus events. And Loki's like, dude, everything's about to get blown the fuck up. We know this. Calm down. So he just runs out there and frees a bunch of goats out of this dude's little cart or whatever. And he's like, be free, my horn friends, which cracked me up because Loki's got a thing for horns, you know what I mean? And he ends up talking in Italian or whatever language they would have been using, Latin maybe? They might have been using Latin at this time. And he starts talking to Latin in them, of course, and telling him, hey, we're from the future. I'm from the TVA. Wait, we're from the future, right? When he's talking to Mobius, and Mobius is like, I guess, yeah. He's like, it sounds pretty futury, doesn't it? All right, anyway. So we're from the future, and you're all about to die. So do whatever the hell you want, no consequences, nothing matters. So Loki starts throwing things around, messing with people, and people start flipping out and trying to grab all their shit and getting the hell out. And then the volcano, right on cue, erupts, and he's like, right there we go. And then Mobius is looking at the little radar thing to try to see if there's any variance energy going or anything going on, a Nexus event on the horizon, and nothing happens. There's no variance energy. Loki's theory was right. And he's like, you see, if I was the variant and I was going to go somewhere, this is where I would hide. Nah, but for real. But this is where you would hide. So he's like, okay, the theory works. So now we just need to go back to the TVA, Mobius is saying, so that way we could figure out exactly what year and what apocalyptic event she went to. I mean, not she. They didn't know she was a she at the time, but we know it's a she. Figure out where this variant went, right? So they go back, and there's a bunch of apocalyptic events apparently in the 2030s and 2020s and 2040s and 2050s. So they start looking through all that. And they're going through the files, and then Mobius remembers that they have the kablooey clue, which was that little blue piece of, that little blue gum that was left with the kid in France at the near the beginning of the first episode there. And he realizes that the candy is called kablooey, and he realizes that's the clue and that's the sign. It's an event where there was an explosion. Boom, kablooey. So they're looking through files from like 2048 to 2051, and they're like, okay, which kablooey, which kablooey? Up, no kablooey, no kablooey. And then Mobius finds it. It is a big and natural disaster, like a hurricane comes sweeping through. I believe was a it was a uh, let me get the correct term here, or the correct place. Haven Hills, Alabama. They figure out that there was a big natural disaster that caused an explosion over there in 2050 in Haven Hills, Alabama. So they figure out this is where we're gonna go. This ought to be it. You can get a bunch of supplies at Roxcart, the store, right there. You can get a bunch of stuff, and no one's gonna know you were there because everyone literally got wiped out or had to evacuate. So it won't cause any effect to the timeline, obviously. So they're like, all right, let's go. So Loki and Mobius get with the other Minutemen and they suit up. And Loki's actually about to get a couple blades from Mobius real quick to defend himself. And right as he does, B-15 comes by and says, hell no. And takes those things away and says, all right, we got this cosmic mistake with us now. So let's make sure we get this variant, get his ass back here quickly so that way we can disintegrate this motherfucker and get on with our day. And they go through the portals, and once they get to Roxcart, Loki's about to go split up with Mobius, while the other TVA agents with B-15 are going to go in the opposite direction. But B-15 says, nah, homie, he's coming with me. So she grabs Loki after a long argument, and they go off together, and Mobius goes with the other agents. And then, shortly after that, Loki and B-15 end up running into some random black dude in the flower aisle, and he's over here trying to shop for plants, which is weird as hell during a damn hurricane. So you know something's up. I knew it was Lady Loki right there, bruh. And Loki was like, well, I don't know if that's me, but I would have definitely picked a suit. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's me. So B-15 starts to approach this random black dude, but then he grabs her and transfers Lady Loki's essence to her, and that body passes out. And then she turns around, and Loki realizes that he's talking to himself. He's talking to the other Loki in somebody else's body, and she just keeps going freaking body snatchers with this motherfucker for the whole rest of the episode, man. And he's just like, "Yo, you want to team up and overthrow the TVA or what?" And she's like, "Nah, not really, bro. I have other things in mind." And he's like, "What the hell else could you have in mind? Let's team up. Let's do this thing." And she's like, "Nah, bro, get off my nuts, and don't call me Loki. Don't call me that." So apparently she doesn't like getting called Loki, but we're gonna find out why in a little bit. So after that, Loki and Lady Loki end up getting into a little confrontation. She switches bodies over to this hillbilly fat guy in the store, and then she ends up kicking the shit out of our boy Loki. And he's like, "Man, I would never treat me like this. What the hell is going on here?" And all during this time, Mobius and the other agents end up finding Agent C-20, who was kidnapped earlier, and she's just flipping out in the corner, going cuckoo's nest, saying, "It's all real. It's all real." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "I want to go home. I want to go home." And they're like, "Okay, we're going to get you there. But can you tell us anything to help us get this variant? Like, what's going on?" And she's like, "Oh my God, I told them where you can find the timekeepers. I gave away their location." And they're like, "What? You gave away the timekeepers' location?" And then we cut back over to the Lokis fighting each other again. And then Lady Loki ends up throwing him over this display over this table there. And after he falls down and eats it, she's like, "Well, looks like you finally gave me just enough time I stalled for. Thank you for always wanting to talk so much." So then she goes over, and the little timer that she set off earlier in the store while she was surveying them coming into Rock's cart is all the way down from 20 minutes down to just a couple minutes, and the timer's about to go off. And once it does, a bunch of time portals open up under these little timeline reset devices that we've seen all throughout episode 1 and throughout episode 2 here, and she detonates them all at once at like literally like maybe like 40, 50 different locations in the past and the future in the timeline, man. And I actually wrote down a few locations of where these bombs actually went to. It actually one of them went to Vormir in the future, not the past. Tokyo in the past. Asgard in the past or the future, I wasn't quite sure. Earth, it went to New York and a couple other locations as well. She sent one to Ego, the living planet. She sent one to Xandar from Guardians of the Galaxy. She sent one to Titan, you know what I'm saying? Thanos' old homeworld. And she sent one to the Kree homeworld called Hala. And she sent these things all over the place, bro. Like she just fucked up the timeline big time. And all the people back at the TVA are flipping out at the controls like, "Oh shit, she just bombed the timeline. Holy fuck." And you can see all these branches going out through the timeline on their little devices, on their little graphs or whatever. And all the Minutemen in the TVA are running through portals, bro. They're all trying to infiltrate this thing and stop this redlining. But I don't think they're going to be able to stop all these things in time, bro. And we cut back to Lady Loki opening up a time portal. as or actually, she reveals who she truly is at first, and then she opens up a time portal after Loki sees the reveal of Lady Loki, and then she waves goodbye to him and steps through the portal. And while Loki's kind of sitting there contemplating what to do, Mobius and them are running up like, Loki, where you going? What are you doing? And then Loki turns towards the time portal, turns towards the TVA, and then he runs through the time portal, and that's that, man. And he's gone, and that is the end of episode 2, man. So I've got a million different questions, man. Like, does this directly set up Doctor Strange 2? I don't know. Does Wanda have anything to do with this in Doctor Strange 2? Was this have any effect with that? I don't know. Is Lady Loki going to live past the show and live past this and go on? I don't know. But there's a million different directions that this show can go in, and that's the one thing I love about this so far, man. And I just cannot wait for episode 3 of Loki, man. But what did y'all think about episode 2, the variant? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was somewhere in between? And what do you think about the Lady Loki reveal? Did you guys see that coming like I did? Or did you think it was just another type of dude Loki? Because they showed all those different types of Lokis, like, a centaur Loki, you know what I'm saying? You got FIFA Loki over here. You had almost like a Doctor Strange, mystic kind of looking Loki over there. So you got all these different versions of Loki running around. So you maybe thought it could have been a dude, whatever. But I just thought the figure at the end of episode 1 looked like a little bit of a small, kind of petite figure, or someone that looked a little more feminine the way they were dressed and kind of moving. So it just seemed like it was Lady Loki to me. And I kind of did hear a rumor online several months back. So I did kind of have insider information without really knowing it. But, oh well. I wasn't really spoiled by it, so I hope you weren't either. But like we always say in the thumbnail and in the descriptions, this is spoiler breakdown, spoiler reviews. That's all we do here on the channel. So you have been warned. But like we said before, man, make sure you check us out all over the podcast feeds. I'm talking Spotify. I'm talking iHeartRadio. I'm talking about Google Podcasts. I'm talking about Amazon. We are everywhere, so make sure you click that download and you share this with your friends, your fan, everybody, man. Share this around the world. Share this with everybody you know. If you dig pop culture, I'm sure you're going to love the show. And make sure you, if you're doing this on the YouTube and you're checking out this beautiful face of mine, click the like, click the subscribe, and maybe even click that little bell reminder so you can always stay up to date with our latest and greatest releases. And as the show and as the channel keeps growing, we're going to keep dropping stuff on a regular basis, and we might even start doing some actual programming where it's going to be set at a specific time and date. We're still trying to work it all out with the team, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's doing their 9 to 5s, and everyone's trying to chase the dreams. So we're all trying to make it work with the schedules, but we're going to keep bringing you dope content like this. So for everybody that's checked it out thus far, thank you so much. And please stick around for Loki episode 3 breakdown, man. It's going to be dropping this next week. So you don't want to miss that, y'all. We're going to be bringing you all that greatness